this be removed? I just wanted to read from my screen. I don't want to. Yep, that's better. I'll just read from it. That's it. Thank you. No, that's fine. Good afternoon. Such a privilege to be here. I thank the Multiversity and the Al-Bukhari International University for giving me this opportunity. My task is to respond to Professor Zul's paper. I've always been one of his admirers ever since I chanced to meet him in the International Association University platforms. So I concur with his main thrust and analysis. I also agree with the tone and content of the questions he posed in his conclusion in the paper. But what I agree with him most of all is his concern and the sense of disquiet about the lack of any organic connection between university, particularly in the global south, and the concerns of the society in which it finds itself located. My attempt here is to build on some of these and also to give a context to the illustrations that he is making. If we paint the last millennium of world history in broad strokes, we find the last about 4 centuries to have been dominated economically, politically, and culturally by what broadly emerged as the modern West. This global arrangement was facilitated by domination, by force, slave trade, colonialism, and so on. The European University presumably extended the cultural and intellectual backbone to this project right from its very beginning. However, it was in the phase of consolidation of this project that the concrete role of university became fully visible. All colonial and post-colonial arrangements which ensured the continuance of domination through hegemonic rather than coercive control meant that there was a need for co-opting collaborators from the colonized societies into the management of this project. That's when the armature of this great European institution called university began the elaborate process of unfolding completely and stretching its long arms all over the world. Its prototype, the European University's prototype, cast largely in the tradition, the original mold, began getting transplanted in the rest of the world. Thus, university became the institutional mechanism of consolidation of dominance and establishment of hegemony. This process began in the second half of the 19th century and continued in full swing all through the 20th century, beyond the so-called liberation of the former colonies. The proliferation of university all over the world was like the spread of molten lava from the volcanic eruption of intellectual and cultural Europe, creating a thin crust of colonized minds all over the world. Even in this second decade of the 21st century, in most societies of the global south, it is still just a thin crust, representing the higher economic stratum that is closely engaged with the global. Let's take the example of India, with which I am more familiar. If we stack India's population according to household income, it is projected that by 2015, merely about 1% topmost layer will be connected with the global economy. And another 1%, the next top layer, will be striving to get there. The third layer of about a fifth of the population, 19% is the projection, will be subservient to the globalization project, but never be quite participants in it. University in India is about this 1/5 of the population. The knowledge that it generates and the skills which it trains are essentially catering to deepening the global linkages. The rest, 80% of India's population, is still disconnected and alienated from the story of economic growth and globalization. However, it is not as though nothing exciting is happening with this large segment of the population. In fact, lots of interesting things happen in this space. We must remember that more than 90% of India's workforce and about 50% of its national produce are accounted for by the informal economy. So this is not something to be brushed aside. The informal economy, however, is largely untouched by university. It is not informed by university knowledge. Its operations are not run by the skills that university trains. Still, it works very well. Much of the informal sector of the economy deals with local knowledge and community knowledge. Professor Zul mentioned the 4 types of engagements that some universities are attempting with local knowledge. These are extremely heartening and encouraging instances, but the majority of universities still have very little appreciation of and the wherewithal about engaging with community knowledge, other than archiving them and converting them into museum pieces. There are exciting experiments happening outside university which are trying to address hardy perennial social problems through sustainable solutions which are rooted in practice-based community wisdom, whether it be in agriculture, in animal husbandry, in healing, in midwifery, and many other different areas. University finds it difficult to catch up with these developments. One important reason for this inability is universities' dependence on the conventional epistemology, which remains largely Cartesian and positivist. What is valid knowledge? How does local knowledge get validated through university research and distilled into university curricula? How does it get problematized in a manner that the international academic community cognize and authenticate? While university in its self-absorption is vexed with worries such as the ones I listed above as to how to engage with local knowledge, it is actually losing an important opportunity of connecting organically with where the original action actually lies. One needs to differentiate between a university and a polytechnic. University's purpose is not to merely respond to the demands of the market. Its role is also to identify a social need which is still outside the gaze of the market and mobilize a demand for it. To build research and curricular programs around local knowledge and strengthen organic links with informal economy is a social need. It may not have translated itself into a cognizable market demand as yet, but yet it's a social need. For this, we need to make major transformations in its epistemological premises and its curricular and pedagogic practices and styles. For this, university has to extend its faculty to include people in the community who, through the praxis of their own lives, have generated invaluable insights into many complex issues and problems. University has to learn to address praxis as a source of valid knowledge and basis on which theory will be grounded. These are some of the essential steps for university to reinvent itself to connect organically to the society it is located in. Else, as Professor Zul warned us, university is likely to get extinct in the not too far future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Shah Menon.
Finally, we would like to invite Mr. Simeon Materchara to give his vote of thanks.
Masters of Ceremonies, distinguished participants, students, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Simeon Materechera. I'm from the Republic of South Africa. I'm here with my colleague, Professor Hassan Kaya. We just arrived into this beautiful country a few hours ago and made our way into this magnificent campus and joined this distinguished group of ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls who believe in the role of indigenous knowledge systems in sustaining our development. My task this afternoon is very simple, and that is just to thank all of you for making the time to be here this afternoon. I would like to thank all the committees that have spent their time putting this together, and thank all those that have made presentations and made responses to those presentations. I have seen in the short time that I've been here that we have already started to build the cages and the nests. And I'm hoping that this is just the beginning. I think the day has been due long. There is a welcoming dinner waiting for us. And all I can do now is just to thank you for your patience and wish you all the best of luck in terms of deliberations for the rest of this conference. I thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Materchera. Distinguished guests, participants, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Executive Working Committee for the International Conference on University Leadership for Integrating Knowledge Diversity for Sustainability, we bring this ceremony to a close. We want to thank all the guests of honors, participants, audience, and of course the Working Committee for the enthusiasm in organizing this event.
Once again, a very big thank you to all of you.